So let's go to runner number 2. This is going to follow the same process. It's the same workout. It's a 60-minute tempo run. This particular runner is an elite 3K steeplechase runner and has no injury history. I think this runner has a little over 8-minute 3K steeplechase PR and a sub 14-minute 5K PR. So a pretty speedy runner. So let's start with our general overview again. What we can see in this case, we see ground contact time, strike AR, thigh swing speed sticking out quite a bit. Right off the bat, I can see ground contact time. We have a pretty notable asymmetry there, kind of across the entire workout. So we've got some weakness on that right leg, it looks like, as far as higher ground contact time. We also see in the strike angular range, sort of same trend. Right side is much lower range. Right leg is probably having some force production issues combined with a little bit of elastic energy issues. The left side, I would say, strike AR 4.1 at the beginning is pretty good, actually. That's actually, I would consider a pretty moderate value for a distance runner, so not too bad there. And then in the thigh swing speed, the thing that jumps out about this is just a very large asymmetry right off the bat. You know, we're talking 80 degrees per second of difference that is actually pretty sustained across the workout. So that's just something that we're going to want to consider as well. So yep, just to show the data a little bit closer, we see that strike angular range, low values on the right leg, and simultaneously ground contact time, a little bit higher values there, a little undesirable. So right leg seems to be our weak point if we have to pick one. How do these asymmetries do? Well, let's look at the ground contact time and the thigh swing speed. Basically, the ground contact time, not too bad actually. The asymmetry increases from about 9 to 15 milliseconds, so not a huge change, but it's certainly notable. I think there's until that is matched and maintained within a pretty tight window for the whole workout, we always have room to improve. And interestingly, the thigh swing speed asymmetry is actually maintained pretty well for the whole workout. So, you know, it's important to remember that it's not, you know, the first thing that I focus on is not that they have an asymmetry that's really big, because that could completely be a trained functional asymmetry. There are certain drawbacks to it as far as, you know, are we getting the most out of ourselves that we can? But as far as, you know, injury risk or something like that, just because somebody is asymmetrical doesn't mean that they're going to get injured necessarily. What really matters is how well we're able to maintain our normal movement patterns within what is normal. So pretty happy to see that asymmetry is pretty well conditioned and maintained well throughout the whole workout. So let's look at the decline of form then. Where are we dropping off? Two big areas stick out to me here. We see that strike angular range, sort of right from the first 10 minutes. So we have our 6 laps here, every 10-minute section of the 60-minute tempo. We can see the left-right values of strike angular range. And really just looking at the data, we can see this slow decline and maybe leveling out a little bit towards the end here. You know, we see starting out 4.1 on the left, 2.8 on the right, and that's all the way down to 2.7 and 1.7 by the end. So it's a pretty big change. Actually, the left side, that's a decrease of about 52%. Right side decreases by about 65%. So pretty big changes relative to the individual. And then looking at the smoothness, this is measured from the pelvis, and this is taking into account the lateral jerkiness of the stride. And so if you're very unstable, if you've got tight hips, you're not getting that fluid motion and that stabilization during ground contact, we can see this value start to increase, and we can see some high values for people who are very unstable runners. So just looking at this, we can see starting at 13, actually really good. I like that value a lot. That's definitely on the low end. That's definitely on the elite end. But we can see it increases throughout the run up to 21, which is, you know, about 60% increase or so. Still, you know, 21, not a horrible alarming value. That's still actually pretty good. It's pretty smooth. But what concerns me is you clearly have the capacity to be operating in this lower range, but we're not able to sustain that, and we're losing something that is a strength for us by the end. So it's especially meaningful to be able to see what somebody is capable of if only they were able to sustain and maintain that motion for a little bit longer. So to summarize this, some recommendations. What we see here is essentially a gradual decline of strike angular range and smoothness, just starting right from the first 10 minutes. This is pretty much right off the bat, we start to see this decline from the start in both of these areas. And to me, it just means that this runner just might not be ready to do sustained tempo work at this intensity. Because we're losing the quality of our form and our running technique so quickly from the start. So one method one recommendation I would have is to just reduce the pace a little bit for sustained tempo runs and focus on the form a little bit more. Make that, clearly this runner is fit, they can go the distance at this effort, but we're not utilizing our movement very well to be helping us improve. So I may set that as the priority. I may say, you know what, slow it down a little bit and focus on keeping that form tight, and then let's work on pushing that pace up a little bit back to where it was. The smoothness values, again, are great at the beginning. I think we ought to maximize that strength by training to maintain it and keep those. So the two ways that we can increase the quality at this intensity, like I just said, reduce the speed and focus on form. I'd probably start with about 5 seconds per kilometer and build from there. And then the specific monitoring of form, like we just mentioned about target range, setting a goal with your MPI, saying I want to stay above this value or I want to stay below this value, and just doing some brief check-ins periodically on the run, seeing how we're doing with that. Are we trending up? Are we trending better? Do I need to stop the workout or change it? And for those, it would be definitely smoothness and strike angular range right from the beginning. Training for this individual, pretty similar. We're going to just general training to improve force production and improving that left-right symmetry. Probably won't be lifting 415 pounds as this runner in the picture is, but deadlift is not a bad method either.